This is the show where we talk about the biggest college football games of the weekend. And um, let's start by talking about what we just saw. We're recording this the day after the Sugar Bowl. For those who are going to watch this later, obviously we're live right now. But um, the we will. So yeah, this past couple of days of games from Penn State, Boise State to yesterday. Um, so a couple of good games, competitive. A couple of not so competitive games. But Bobby, I want to kick our discussion off with this by posing you this question. What was like the most surprising result to you? ASU keeping the game close against Texas, Ohio State blowing the doors off Oregon in the Rose Bowl, or Notre Dame beating Georgia, and not quite a blowout, but it wasn't close by the end. Like which of those results were the most surprising to you?
Yeah, so the Arizona State thing. I mean, we've seen Texas play with their food all season long. Um, and even though Arizona State didn't appear to be on that level as some of those SEC teams that they kind of played too tight, the Sun Devils had a lot of grit. They were a 4th and 11, I believe, away from winning the ball game in overtime. So, I mean, I didn't expect that, but that was I didn't. That surprised me a little bit. I thought it would be a little bit closer than the experts thought, and it was. And then with Georgia, obviously with Gunnar Stockton out there instead of Carson Beck, you really, I don't know. I could have seen that thing getting sideways anytime you have a backup quarterback. So for me, by far, it's the biggest shock was the Oregon Ducks getting absolutely just hammered by Ohio State. And that's in no slight or to look down on a Buckeye team that looked excellent against Tennessee, and has clearly found its second, third, whatever gear they're in. They look like just an absolute just terror in college, just a brutal team to try to beat in college football. It's more about the Ducks. We haven't seen them look that bad since I believe Idaho, maybe Boise. It was out of sorts for them, out of character to look. I think just that hapless. And I think it's just a situation where you get punched in the mouth and it's hard to recover from. And, maybe a couple days or weeks off in their case, 3 weeks off might have done something. But clearly, Ohio State had all of the momentum, the right game plan on offense and defense, and just completely just blitz the hell out of the Ducks. And I was shocked that that happened. I thought they would have. I thought they would have a lot. They would have been more prepared than that, but apparently not.
Yeah. Here's the thing: the Ducks, quite honestly, like just looks like they got shell shocked um, pretty quickly there, and I don't really know what exactly. I don't really know what exactly went wrong. Honestly, um, it almost seemed as if like they just seemed very unprepared for what Ohio State was going to do, which is very strange because they already played Ohio State earlier this year. So you'd think like, okay, they are a little bit more familiar with what the Buckeyes can do, and they just repeat the same things that worked, or maybe maybe plan for a couple things to change, but mostly it's the same team. Everything is the same. It's not like injuries made the games drastically different from last time to this time. So I agree with you, Bobby. It was shocking how bad Oregon looked. Um, and to me, the big takeaway from that game is like, I think losing to Michigan put a battery in Ohio State's back. and now they look like the team to beat moving forward. Um, because I think this team is not only hitting their stride right now, but the Buckeyes are kind of playing pissed. Like they're playing angry. They really dominated Tennessee. They really went out there and you know it was all gas, no brakes against the Ducks. Will Howard's been excellent. He's making everything look easy. He's making it look like he should be in consideration for as a top draft pick. You know, I guess it would be next year maybe, but I mean,
Does he have another year?
yeah, I have no idea. I have no. I got to check on what his eligibility is, but in whatever draft we're talking about, whether it's next year or this year, like just he's playing at the top of his game, and obviously Ohio State's always had a wealth of weapons, but um, they just look great. And for Oregon to come out like that, especially on a stage like the Rose Bowl, you're closer to home. You've had the rest. Um, Dan Lanning's normally got his team prepared for these moments. Like it's just it was shocking, and honestly I feel bad for the fans and for that team. I mean, to go undefeated and then to come out like this. I mean, I've never. It's very rare in pro sports, honestly. Like
Yeah,
you know, I mean, I'm just thinking about it because I mean, I've seen in the NFL teams like go go and like have a whole season and they lose only like one game or two games, and then they have the bye week and they come out and just like get beat by a wild card team. Like, that's just sports. But I mean, this was a complete domination. The Bucks didn't look at a chance at all, and that was shocking to me too. I agree with you.
well, and they didn't even have a. They didn't even really get to enjoy the playoff. Like they didn't. They it was over before it started. Like
Yeah,
Ohio State got the lead early, and it was just done. And that sucks. Like I think you have to kind of reevaluate the way you do things in the playoff. I think getting rewarded with your first game of the CFP being a white hot Ohio State team is pretty brutal.
yeah,
And I'm with you. I feel for the Ducks. And
yeah.
I don't mean to make a long tangent about an eliminated team, but historically, this is a team that has reached these high moments, and every single time they fall short. Cam Newton, in the 2009 title, and then to these, well, not same Buckeyes, but another Ohio State team that underachieved all year and then made a wild run at the end. Like this is tough for Oregon, and if you're a fan of the Ducks, like it's gonna be kind of hard to be like, is this just gonna keep happening to us forever? And if I could give them any solace, I don't think it will. I think Lanning has the program in the right direction. You have a young head coach there. I think there are going to be better days. This is still part of the early process. So I wouldn't be. I mean, I'd be heartbroken if I were the Ducks, but I wouldn't be hopeless.
I agree with you. They shouldn't be hopeless. I think the tough part is the Ducks got so lucky this year with their schedule, and I think you would like, if especially if you're a fan, you would like them to be able to take advantage of that. You know, a perfect situation, right? Great schedule, won all your games, won a conference championship, had a bye week, and then you're playing almost damn near a home game. I know the Rose Bowl's neutral field, but like, it's right in your backyard almost. Like, that's got to sting a little bit. But I agree with you. Next year, you're going to have more of Lanning's recruits, and you're going to have Dante Moore, who, you know, coming out of high school was seen as somebody that could be really special. And if he's developed in the way that you would hope, he could add a new wrinkle to your offense, which is kind of crazy to say, given that Dylan Gabriel, was literally a Heisman finalist this year. Like, you could be in for better days next year with your in the quarterback position. So, I mean, yeah, definitely. they could have better success and more success in the future, but this will definitely sting. Um,
I'm going to throw out a scalding take before we move on.
sure, sure.
It's not going to be Dante Moore next year. It'll be Quinn Ewers. That's my take.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Ewers comes back, does the Dylan Gabriel, portals in for one more year, Arch pushes him out. That's my scalding hot take. I don't know if it's going to happen, but if it does, it'll be absolutely hilarious. And you heard it here first.
To Oregon, though, is interesting. I don't necessarily disagree with him getting pushed out of Texas and possibly coming back for another year, but to Oregon is interesting. Um, yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Um, before we get to the games, I'll just say too, like, hats off to Arizona State for playing their butts off. I agree with you. Texas kind of plays with their food a little bit. Arizona State, you know, gave us a classic, kind of quieted the noise about how bad the first round was with some of the blowouts. So shout out to them. Definitely, I think was a good good drop in the bucket for folks that like me that are fans of expansion and wanting to see other teams have a shot. Like Arizona State gave Texas all they could handle, and then Notre Dame to beat Georgia, kind of a shocker. Again that they had control of the game for most of the game, or for get them out of the game. But again, Notre Dame even being in that position, they wouldn't have been there if we had only been able to send four teams. Obviously, their own fault, for losing to Northern Illinois, but at the same time, like, great to see that this new format allows for second chances and for teams to not be penalized after week two. So, um, yeah, I'm definitely thinking it works. I just think they have to. We said it before. Fix the seating, and it'll be a good product. Not perfect. It'll never be perfect. I don't think, but it'll be better if they do that. All right, all right. On to the games. Um, let's start off with the Orange Bowl. That's Penn State versus Notre Dame, who I just mentioned. Notre Dame favored by 1.5 to open. Um, total for that game is 46.5. This is going to be Thursday night, 7:30 Eastern. Um, pretty sure I'll be on a plane when this happens, but um, side note on that. But yeah, Notre Dame, Penn State. I think this is going to be an interesting matchup. Two interesting teams kind of play similar. Both teams sort of rely on the run. Notre Dame more so with their quarterback than their actual running backs, but still two teams that run, two teams that can defend. Um, two quarterbacks that I believe can make plays, but like I said, Notre Dame sort of has Riley Leonard, who's more athletic, uses his legs. Drew Aller can do some things with his arm. Um, I'll say both quarterbacks can be definitely prone to making some mistakes that like really make you wonder like what the hell they were thinking. But this game I would say is pretty evenly matched, and that might be the reason why it's such a close line.
Yeah, no, and I think it is evenly matched, honestly, in a lot of ways. I think Notre Dame, look, that's a good football team, to separate from Georgia like that. But this is not to take any credit away from the Fighting Irish. I feel like the that result and the way it looked was more about Georgia's follies and Georgia's mistakes. And Notre Dame took, credit to them, took advantage of them. That kind of meltdown at the end of the first half where, uh, Stockton fumbles the ball, gives Notre Dame a touchdown on a silver platter. Obviously, Parker Jones, little, guy not even dressed out, screwing up Georgia's, field position there as well. It was not a disciplined game from the Bulldogs, and Notre Dame took their opportunities, and They absolutely deserved to win that game. They were by far the better team. But I feel like that's more on Georgia than anything because I think they did make a lot of mistakes. And yeah, you can't screw up that much in a game between two evenly matched teams. Penn State, I thought, looked a lot more dominant against Boise. Of course, Boise not as good as the Georgia Bulldogs. I don't think, even after everything, they shut down Genty, which I thought was really impressive. Turned the ball over when they needed to. That one could have been closer if Boise played a little bit tighter, a little bit more disciplined. You kind of have to have things go your way if you want an upset, and Boise didn't get those. Uh, so yeah, I think the line makes sense. But if I had to trend towards the side, I feel like Notre Dame has been the more dominant team, uh, just by a bit. Just from what I've seen, they I feel like they make the big plays when they need to make them. Um, I don't know. I think this is going to be a really fun one, and this is exactly why everybody complaining in the first round. You got the good games. We have two great ones. It just trust the plot process. It'll play itself out. We would have gotten none of these games in the 4 team, and now we have two awesome ones. So to me, this is example A, well, and Texas, Ohio State example B of why this system works, because I think these are two really evenly matched teams, and I think both of them could win the national title. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think you hit it right on the head, but with Notre Dame's dominance, right? And like, I mean, this is a team that beat two SEC teams. Has beaten two SEC teams this year. Um, both by double digits, mind you. And then there are other tougher games. Again, like got one, you won and you won convincingly. There wasn't any like, triple overtimes to Georgia Tech or whatever. It's like convincing win after convincing win. And just watching the way they got after Georgia early in the game, right? Like missing one of their best defensive players, maybe if not probably the best player on their defense on the line, they still like were getting tackles for loss, sacking the quarterback. That fumble they got right before halftime, the fumble recovery they got right before halftime, just incredible stuff. Incredible stuff from the Fighting Irish. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think the interesting thing about Notre Dame being favored as well is it is in spite of the unfortunate circumstance of them having to play a day later, but their game is earlier than the other game. So, a week is what are used to for game preparation. And maybe that works in their favor because they can keep the routine going that they have all year. But Penn State has had a little bit of extra time to prepare, being that they played the first game, they played on New Year's Eve against Boise State, and Notre Dame played later against Georgia. So we'll see. I think pretty early if the couple days makes a difference. Um, I do think what I'm a little bit worried about is if Penn State's able to get some stops and there becomes a time where we have to rely on Notre Dame or Riley Leonard to win as a passer, that makes me nervous because I think Notre Dame is the best when like the game is in the striking distance or they have a lead, and Riley Leonard can just run for first downs, and he's good at it. They convert a lot of those plays, and he did it against Georgia. I think it's what helped converting on third and fourth through the run. But when you're down, that's a little bit harder to do. And you're trying to teams a lot of times will pass in those situations, or want to pass in those situations, I should say. And we saw that with the Boise State game with Penn State, right? Like Boise State couldn't get anything on the ground with Genty. They had to pass, and Boise State also kind of shot themselves in the foot with the fumbles. They got behind, a little bit, and they just couldn't keep up. So those are all things I think to consider in this game. My my feeling, I feel better about what I'm seeing from Notre Dame coming into this game, though, and I think that is going to be my pick. I think Penn State just going back to their history, right? It's like you look good, you beat a couple of inferior opponents in SMU and Boise State, and not to knock those teams because they did get to this point, they had great seasons, but Penn State's had more talent, was better than both teams. Neither one of those teams had the defense to really be able to stop anything Penn State could do. But this is a different ball game. Notre Dame has a good defense. They can move the ball on you at will because they're so good in the trenches. And so when it comes to having a team that's evenly matched or might be better than you, we know James Franklin, we know Penn State's history on that is not great. Um, and so the way I look at it is Notre Dame's shown me more with a bit of a tougher road. And I have to trust my eyes and trust what I'm seeing on the field, and that will translate. So, yeah, I think I'm going with Notre Dame. I'm riding them to the championship, and they might win the championship. Honestly, I think like we'll talk about it more in depth, but like Notre Dame, yeah, I'm taking the Irish.
Yeah, and we can talk about who we who we
Yeah,
think is the front runner, and I'll get to that probably in the next game. Um, I think Notre Dame is a damn good team. I think both of these teams are really good. I just right now am trending more towards the Irish, given the opponents they've faced to this point. I feel like Indiana, despite them getting drugged through the mud, is still a solid team. Um, as do I think Georgia, even with their injuries, their flaws, all of that. I think that's a solid team. That's a solid win. So I think the body of work that Notre Dame has had to get to this point is more impressive. I think they've done it in more emphatic fashion. Because I know Penn State, the final score looked really good, but that game felt a lot closer in a lot of ways than the other one, than Georgia. Because um, that second half for Notre Dame, once they hit that kick return, it was lights out for the dogs. And I mean, they made a comeback attempt, but it was like you said, Notre Dame, when they get a lead, they rarely give that thing up. Um, I'm trending Notre Dame. I think this is the definition of a coin flip. Last time I said that, I was dead wrong. So we'll see how that goes. It's football after all, but I'm with you. I'm on the Irish.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so yeah, should be a fun one. That game again is on Thursday in Miami. Interesting location for sure. Going to some warmer weather for this one. Um, Warmer weather and outside in January,
Mhm.
I think is interesting
Yeah, two
too.
massive fan bases though. Two massive fan bases that I'm sure, given where Happy Valley and South Bend are, I'm sure they'll be very happy to be in South Bend, or sorry, in South Beach this week. That'll
Yeah,
be
100%.
that's going to be a packed house. Really good fan bases that travel well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was cool to see how many fans were still in the stands, even though the game was unexpectedly pushed a day later. You think about flights and everything like that, and it was still full house. So yeah, those fans and both fan bases, but Notre Dame fans mean business for sure.
Yeah.
Um, all right, let's talk about the next game. Texas getting lucky with a Cotton Bowl game against Ohio State, and I use lucky loosely because Ohio State's playing amazing, but you know, a little bit of a shorter distance to travel there, obviously for the Longhorns. Either way, the Buckeyes are favored by 6, or to open it was Buckeyes was up by 6, or I think the opening was 5, but now they're favored by 6. Total 53 and a half. 7:30 kick on Friday the 10th. Um, yeah, Ohio State. We talked about it just now. Been dominant, playing like they're pissed off. Um, Maybe the Michigan loss was the best thing for them going into this. Um, Texas, on the other hand, had a good showing against Clemson, but came out against Arizona State and let them hang around and almost lost it. Um, I don't know if it's the best feeling if you're a Texas fan or if you're on the coaching staff or you're on the team and you're played like you played and now you have to go and face a good Ohio State team, even um, at a close neutral site. But um, Texas has survived to up to this point. And the only team that's beaten them this year is Georgia. So um, definitely interesting. This game has a chance to be a super high scoring game, hence the total being 53 and a half. Um, but these two teams play defense as well. Um, this is a harder one to pick for me, Bobby. I know you can go ahead and share who you like. It will be a surprise to no one, but this is a little bit tougher for me.
Yeah, I get that, and I know I'm biased. I totally understand that. But to me, I've been talking about Texas all season long, and I feel like I've been going crazy because none of these teams have been able to properly validate the way I've been feeling outside of Georgia. And
Yeah.
to me, it's like Texas. This has been a charmed season on multiple ends. I know, the running back room. Oh, we have running back injuries. Yeah, well, you have two more great ones. Congratulations. You get the easiest SEC schedule. You get the easiest path to the playoff. They've played the 16th team in the country in Clemson, and then the 12th team in the country in Arizona State. Forget the seeding. That's what that is. That's charmed, and they messed around and didn't look great in both of them. Um, and frankly, we're just inches from getting eliminated in a hilarious fashion, multiple times in that game. And then your semifinals in the Cotton Bowl, which you haven't been to in a long time. That's just charmed right there. Love to see that. Um, but the one thing they can't avoid, the one thing they've never been able to avoid would be a better team than them, and that's the Ohio State Buckeyes who are rolling into town. This Ohio State team, Max, they look like one of the most complete. Like, throw out the records, throw out whatever happened at Michigan. What you're seeing on the field right now against Oregon, what you saw against Tennessee, that looks like one of the most dominant, complete teams I've ever seen in college football. And I know that sounds like hyperbole, but when you watch that football team on the field, how they play, how physical they are on offense, on defense, the running game, the quarterback play, the wide receivers being absolutely unreal. Jeremiah, I mean, my God, uh, they feel complete. They feel like they're on a mission. They're locked in, and to me, I just think that I think there's not a team in the country that can stop them right now. I thought Oregon would be that, and they got absolutely smoked. So yeah, Texas will have the home field. I get it, but I think Ohio State is as complete a team as it gets. They've had a really brutal resume or like road to get here. Number one Oregon, number 7 Tennessee at home with all the bad vibes going on. I just think to me like or Ohio State just feels like the easy play here. I understand, the Texas hype, all of that. I think I think it's about to hit the fan here though for the Longhorns.
Yeah. I mean, the way the Longhorns have played, I think gives you cause to pause, especially when you're facing a team that has come out with their hair on fire, um, especially in the last two games. And I would say that, like, Will Howard playing as well as he has doesn't really help because, like, all right, if their quarterback is playing well, the receivers are going to make plays. Jeremiah Smith, they're going to, like, they can light defenses up. Um, I think what also was impressive about what we saw the Buckeyes do against Oregon, um, Will Howard was not sacked at all. He, had a clean jersey at the end of the game, which obviously credit to that offensive line. So, I mean, it all kind of comes down to, like, if Will Howard is playing well and he has time, like, you have to pretty much get into a track meet with this team, and nobody really can. And the funny thing is, out of all the teams we've seen Ohio State play this year, including the first game they played against Oregon, when you look at just talent on the field, Texas might be the team that's best equipped to get into a track meet with them. The only problem is, you know, that Quinn Ewers is going to throw the ball to the other team at least once. You know that they're going to have or commit a penalty at the wrong time and they're in the wrong situation. And at this stage, those possessions like could be the difference between you staying in the game and you being down by two touchdowns real quick. And so, like, that's not something you can necessarily afford against a team like Ohio State. Um, and so I say all that to say, to me, I think it makes all the sense in the world to take the Buckeyes to win this game. But I think what I'm struggling with is, again, with the exception of Georgia, Texas has like found a way to sort of like come out of these bar fights with the upper hand. And you made the point that is very well taken. Like, has any team they played this year been um, the quality of Ohio State, especially Ohio State right now? Um, Probably not. Just looking over their schedule again, like Texas, did not play a tough schedule this year, and Georgia, had their number both times, and that was by far the best team they had. Um, and Ohio State, on the other hand, didn't have a gauntlet either. Um, but when they play tougher teams, they at least either won outright, like they did against Penn State, or were pretty much in it until the final play, like Oregon. Um, and so I think I think logically it makes sense to take out Ohio State. I think it does. Um, Ohio State's got, I would say, the talent to score on any defense. I think they're playing with a different attitude and a different swagger since losing to Michigan, and I just can't trust Texas to stay buttoned up and do what they need to do to hang on and win. Um, when it's a team that might be as good as them or better, and we know again the mistakes are going to happen. So yeah, I think the Buckeyes get this one. Um, it could be a track meet, Bobby, but I could also see this being a close defensive game too, especially if Texas finds a way to pressure Will Howard, and get him off his rhythm, and find a way to take their talented receivers out of the game. Like, that's the situation that we could definitely see. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I also want to note we haven't seen Texas come from behind like at all this season. I mean they were behind a little bit. They're like a little bit against Oklahoma, and they're behind against Georgia, and that's kind of it. And they haven't looked great in either scenario where they've had to kind of claw their way back. Um, so I would be intrigued to see what would happen if Ohio State punched him in the mouth first, kind of like what we saw with Georgia.
Yeah. I think my bold prediction for this game, too, is that I think, especially if Ohio State like gets a bit of a lead, I think we could definitely like see Arch Manning trotted out as like a we just need to like make a play and we're gonna come up with some funky play, for Arch to like get us a chunk of yards or take us down the field. Like I think it could get like that because I think that we know Arch is the future. We know, we've already seen this happen a little bit with, Quinn coming out for certain plays and what have you. And if anything that you're saying about the transfer portal has legs, then I don't see a reason why Sark would have a sense of like undying loyalty to keeping um, Quinn in the game if he's not playing well and they need to catch up. So that's my bold prediction.
Well, if
That's
that
my bold.
happens, my bold prediction looks a lot better. So
It
I'm just
does.
saying, if they
It
pull
does.
Arch or if they put Arch in there, Quinn is well, one. I don't think that hurts his draft stock, and two, I think that he would not be at Texas to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's just 2 games, Bobby. That's it. That's our show. Um, very, very excited to watch these teams. Bobby, I'll say this right now. I will take literally any result except for Ohio State Penn State. I do not want to watch Ohio State Penn State national championship.
Neither do I. Well, actually, I can't say that because I also would hate Texas Penn State. Like I just anything because Texas would win that one. I feel like I just
Mm,
I just having the path of two bad teams, a game in your home stadium, and then James Franklin just feels like that just makes me bad. That just makes me bad. So I'm with you on the Penn State aspect, which is crazy because I also don't like Notre Dame, but it's a hand we're dealt.
Yeah, I can't. I would feel the entire week leading up that Ohio State's going to win if it's Ohio State Penn State. I don't know what the line would be. Maybe it's not that big, but like, I mean, Ohio State Penn State, the history of the two teams. Penn State has had some good teams, and they still haven't been able to beat Ohio State. You couldn't beat them this year in Happy Valley. Like I would, I would be praying the entire week leading up to it that it's just a close game.
Yeah.
Like, please let it be close. We know Ohio State's going to win, but please let it not be a blowout. Like that would suck.
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be bad. That'd be bad.
yeah, especially since I'm going to be there in person, so I need a good game.
Oh, sweet. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. I don't. It's. I'm excited for it. Maybe I'll share more details on the next show, but definitely should be fun. So yeah, I definitely want a good game. And we a good national championship too. I think last year um, was pretty cool to see kind of Michigan come out and win. So I think it would be nice to have another championship, especially in the first year of the 12-team playoff. But you all know before we end the show, we have to do lock of the week. Um, Bobby and I both A-star picks last week. Bobby's hater pick panned out. 13 and a half was that line. I forgot about that. 13 and a half was the line with the Sun Devils and the line. They took them to overtime. So insane. And the Sun Devils covered. So Bobby's luck was a good pick. And then I just had Texas, which made me nervous that I could have lost that game, but I was just like, I just feel like that's the best bet on the board. So um, good stuff. The scoreboard now is 16-20. So technically, with this score right now, I could tie by the end, but we'll have to figure out what the scoring will look like for next week. This week it'll just be normal, but if there's a chance that I could catch up or win, I think we're gonna have to just do a special like thing for that. But um, you know, you, Bobby has been in the lead all season, making great picks. I will let you do the honors and give your lock first.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it up. We're gonna keep it up, and this isn't even a hater pick because I just think Ohio State is really that good. Um, I'm gonna go with the Buckeyes -6. I feel like we are in the midst of just a really great run, team that just has it all together and is just gonna keep going through. And if you want to talk about an existential threat to college football of what's wrong with the playoff, it's that maybe you can just mess around all season, and if you're good enough to have it together and get in, just lock in and win all your games. And that's kind of what Ohio State's doing. So I think the Buckeyes are going to continue it. I know Texas, they're at home, they got their big cow back on the field, so that's good for them. We won't have to deal with that storyline again. So I'm going to go Ohio State -6, though, despite all of those inherent advantages at home, because at the end of the day, they're a better football team.
All right, taking right in the hater picks. I love it. Um, yeah, I'm surprised the total for Penn State and Notre Dame is 46.5. I'm taking the over. Um, I think that both of these teams possess the ability to score a lot of points. We've seen Notre Dame do it um, when they've had some of these dominant wins. Now in the playoffs, their scoring has come down just a bit. I think that's just a component of them playing better competition. Um, but I think between what they are capable of when they're playing at their best and Penn State also being able to score points, they've scored at least 30 points in the last two games. Again, opponent matters, but we know Penn State can put up numbers. They put up 37 against Oregon in the Big Ten championship. I think the that total is just a little bit too low. I could see this being a low scoring defensive game, but I think as talented as both of these offenses are, I could also see both of these teams um, scoring enough at least to overcome the 46 and a half. Like if, you know, Notre Dame were to score 28, Penn State scores 25, like, you're way clear of the over. So
Yeah.
um, I'm taking that and riding it to championship weekend. So everybody, thanks so much for tuning in and watching. It means a lot to us that you've been doing that this evening. Seriously, it's much appreciated. And we're looking forward to one more step to the championship and another good, hopefully, two good games of football that we can't wait to break down when we see you next time. So thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Peace.
All right, good deal.
Thanks, bro. Enjoy the game.
Will do.